Hello, hello! It is time for another Batman Mask of the Phantasm novelization reading. Just as a heads up, as always, sometimes my computer likes cutting off during the stream, so if it does that, just refresh. If it doesn't seem like a natural ending point, then I'm not done. And actually, a good way to know whether or not I'm actually done today is Ted sent me a package to celebrate. It's a big boy. Ted sent me a package to celebrate our YouTube 5-year anniversary, and so I'll be opening that at the end of the stream today. I have no clue what's in it. I might know one item. I'm not sure if he sent these at the same times. He said he said the one thing that I do know was supposed to be like a Christmas present, but like he didn't want to keep the secret. So I don't know if that's in there or not. But we'll find out as we go. Hello, Jake. Hello, the of reality. Glad to have you all here, and the other 6 viewers that it says are here with us. As always, I'll be doing timeline, canonicity, just general cataloging notes while we go through this. We're doing today chapters 9 through 11. Of course, to celebrate the fact that 9/11's now canon to the DCAU, I guess. Probably not the best joke, but that's okay. It's just word association kind of thing. So yeah, let me go ahead. Let's borrow the book for an hour. Get that to load up. My fiance might be bringing my lunch in here. I tried to get it cooked before going on stream, but our oven takes a while to preheat, so it's probably gonna be like within 15 minutes my lunch is gonna be on its way into the door, but I'm gonna try to not let it interrupt the flow of reading. Let's see, chapter 9. Here we are. Alright, and let me... Oh, I'm not trying to drag icons around. Let me full screen that for you all. And we can just hop on into... Oh, I was about to give my condolences to you for Steven's death, but apparently he's not. So Steven did end up passing. The situation was that the family was going to pull his life support, almost instantly once they got the notice that he was brain dead. but other people in the family were having a hard time, letting go, and they went ahead and tried to keep him on life support as long as they could, but they ended up pulling it yesterday. Apparently, after they pulled it, he was for a while doing like 10 to 12 breaths a minute, just complications breathing, and ended up going out pretty quickly afterwards. It's a rough situation, because I can trace a straight line from Steven's entrance into my life to where I am now, and none of it would have happened without him. Whether or not we stayed close in the years after that or not. I just had my headphones cut out for a second. Are you guys still able to hear me? I'm hoping we're not having any audio issues. But yeah, if you guys are still able to hear me, then I'll go ahead and hop into the book. Hope you and the family and any other of his friends are okay. I know that stuff can be traumatizing. Okay, you guys can still hear me. That's good. Yeah. You know what? Just in case, his family is needing help covering medical bills. I haven't talked to any of them directly, because I was never as close with them as I was with him. But his family is needing help with medical bills. They've got a GoFundMe up, hoping to raise $5,000. They've gotten a little over 20% of that. So I'm gonna drop the GoFundMe link here in the chat. That way, if anyone who's in here is willing to drop a couple bucks, $5, $10, whatever, that's there. Helps them out. That's not anything for me. That's all to cover the medical bills. He was in a coma for a couple weeks, and hospital stays can be pretty fucking expensive. But yeah, let's it stuff happens and it sucks and I hate it. But we're here for a good time. We're here for, this book. We're here to hang out. I expected this to come up, at one point or another. But let's instead of bringing everyone down with me, let's have some fun, and let's go ahead and hop into chapter 9, especially since these are timed rentals, and I just took 5 minutes of that time. So now we got to make sure we can get through the chapters. Batman continued to stare at the photograph of Carl Beaumont and his underworld partners that hung on Sal Valestra's study wall. The 10-year-old memories it brought back made it almost painful to look at. But Batman had to look. This was what he had come here for. It was a clue, and no matter how unpleasant, it was his job. He lifted the photo off the wall, tucked it under his cape, and left. The Gotham World's fairgrounds were in a state of disrepair. The fair had ended a decade ago, but instead of demolishing the dozens of rides and attractions, the city had decided to simply leave the exhibits in place. Then, when the future that the fair had predicted finally arrived, people could return to the site and see how close the fair had come to reality. It was kind of sad, Sal Valestra thought as his car drove through the abandoned park. His own future, like the future imagined by the fair, had seemed so bright and hopeful 10 years earlier. Now, as he rode past the Science Land and Technology of the Future exhibits, he realized that both he and Gotham City had fallen far short of their dreams. But Sal hadn't come here to relive the past. He was here to meet someone. When the car came to a stop in the center of the main plaza, Sal got out and took a deep breath from his portable oxygen tank. If there was just some other way, he thought as his eyes nervously scanned the plaza. He shook his head sadly. This was it, he thought. No other way. He reached into the car and removed a small suitcase. Then he headed toward the World of the Future exhibit. The huge robotic puppets dangling over the entrance of the World of the Future exhibit hadn't moved in over a decade. Once a shiny blue metal, they were now covered with 10 years worth of Gotham City grime and soot. Sal looked at them sadly, and they suddenly started to move and sing, and then explode. Sal dropped to the ground when he heard machine gun fire. Bullets were flying over his head and into the singing robots, blowing them into pieces. When the shooting stopped, Sal wheezed in fear as he stared into the exhibit's darkened entrance. The Joker stepped out of the shadows, a smoking machine gun in his hand. "I hate that song!" he cackled when he saw Sal lying on the ground. He slapped his palms against his head. "Gasp! Can it be? Old Sally, the Weezer Valestra!" Slowly, Sal stood, picking up the suitcase and oxygen tank he dropped when the shooting started. "Welcome, Paisan!" the Joker said, clapping Sal on the shoulders. "It's been a dog's age!" Sal smiled nervously. "Hello, Joker," he said. Didn't mean to drop by unannounced." "Oh, Salvatore," the Joker leered. "Why so formal? My house is your house." Sal nodded his appreciation as the Joker continued. "So, what's an old-timer like you want with a two-timer like me?" "Business," Sal replied as he stepped back toward one of the little cars that once conveyed visitors through the House of the Future exhibit. "Oh, business!" the Joker repeated as he rushed towards Valestra. "Sounds like fun!" He grabbed Sal by the collar and dumped him into the tiny car. "Come," he said gleefully. We'll repair to more comfortable environs? Is that like short for environments? Environs? What is environs? Does he say that in the movie? The surrounding area or district. So yeah, I guess short for environments. Alright. He hopped into the seat next to Sal. "Now hold on to those hats and glasses!" he grinned. "There's a teeny little bit of a jump at first." The tiny car took off like a shot, sailing along its track faster than a roller coaster toward the House of the Future. Sal Valestra wasn't prepared for this abuse. As the car slowed to a halt inside the futuristic home, he clutched at his chest in pain. Meanwhile, the Joker gaily leaped out of the car. "Honey, I'm home!" he shouted. In response, a small mechanical dog appeared at the Joker's feet. As it yapped happily, the Joker viciously kicked it across the room. He smiled back at Valestra. "Don't mind my home security system," he grinned. "Can't be too careful with all those weirdos around." Valestra followed as the Joker entered the kitchen of the future. There, a female robot with a knife in her hand, endlessly chopped at invisible food. "What?" the Joker whined. "Meatloaf? Again? I had it for lunch!" The Joker affectionately placed his hands on the robot's shoulder and turned to Valestra. "Isn't Hazel here a cutie?" he asked. "True, she's a real homebody, but you can't help who you fall in love with." When the Joker suddenly turned from his robot companion and walked into the living room, Sal followed. "So," the Joker said as he sat down, "tell me, what's on your so-called mind?" "It's Batman," Valestra answered, happy to be getting down to business at last. "He's gone nuts. First, he whacked Chucky Saul, then Buzz, and now he's after me. I know it. A couple of days ago," Sal wheezed, "I saw him spying on me from the roofs." "You know," the Joker said thoughtfully, "I've been reading lately how old Guano Man is wound tight enough to snap. Wouldn't it be great," he said gleefully, "if I've finally driven Batso off the deep end?" "This isn't a joke," Valestra shouted, beads of sweat forming on his brow. Batman's knocking us off, and you're the only one who can take him down! Valestra laid down his suitcase and opened it to show the Joker what was inside. $5 million up front, with whatever you want to finish him off. The Joker sneered, unimpressed. What do I look like? Pest control? Now Valestra was really mad. Think, you fool! He shouted, flinging the suitcase to the ground. Once he gets me, how long till he gets you? He rose from the couch and moved toward the Joker. You know what I'm talking about. He growled, grabbing the Joker by his collar. Your hands are just as dirty. Dirtier! The Joker had a faraway look in his eyes as Valestra tugged on his jacket. Then his lips began to tremble, his eyes began to redden, and his nostrils began to flare. Watching this transformation, Sal Valestra had the sickening feeling he'd made a terrible mistake. Don't touch me, old man! The Joker hissed as he rose to his feet and slapped Valestra's hands away. Valestra cowered in fear, but the Joker suddenly smiled, as friendly and outrageous as he'd been just moments before. I don't know where your hands have been! He quipped. Sal Valestra could only tremble in fear. Oh, Sal, the Joker continued, no one could take a joke like you. Of course I'll help you out, he said as he hugged Sal lovingly. Really? Certainly. No way is anybody gonna hurt my pal Sal. Sal Valestra began to smile nervously. He hadn't thought he could pull it off, but it looked like he had. He'd managed to enlist the Joker to get rid of Batman. As his smile widened, the Joker put a finger to the corner of Valestra's mouth, trying to coax a bigger smile out of the sickly old gangster. That's it! That's what I want to see, the Joker said, pointing to his own face as an example. A nice big smile! Let's see. What y'all got going on? He says the environs thing in the movie? Okay. Though he says mi casa es su casa in the movie instead of my house is your house. Mi casa nostra is. Okay. Got it. So there's some liberties with the script. I'm exhausted, Andrea Beaumont said as she unlocked the door to her hotel room. She turned to Arthur Reeves, her date for the evening. Thanks for the dinner, Artie, she smiled. Reeves stood by the door as Andrea opened it to reveal an elegantly furnished room. You know, Reeves began, it's not good to go to bed on a full stomach. He placed his hand over Andrea's. We could stay up, he suggested as he brought his free hand up to her shoulder. Talk for a while. Andrea turned away shyly. She really didn't want this. Oh, Artie, she replied. I've got a killer day tomorrow. The banks, the attorneys. She glanced into the room. The terrace door was open, and the drapes blew lazily inside. She remembered closing the door before she'd left. Was it possible that someone was already inside waiting for her? And could it be him? Reeves was insistent on entering, but Andrea turned to him and smiled. Call me, okay? She whispered as she planted a warm kiss on Reeves' lips. Reeves' eyes opened wide. Perhaps he was getting somewhere with Andrea after all. He smiled dreamily as Andrea closed the door for the night. Andrea leaned against the inside of the door and sighed. She was relieved to be rid of Reeves. What a pompous pain he was. In the darkness, she walked toward a light and turned it on. Andrea Beaumont registered no surprise when she saw Batman standing in the middle of the room. She looked at him coolly a moment, then turned and walked away. Don't you ever knock? She asked. It was a funny, witty response, something Bruce Wayne would almost have expected Andrea to say. But Batman wasn't here to make small talk. Instead, he removed a photograph from under his cape and showed it to Andrea. Have you ever seen this? I'm not doing a very good Batman voice right now, he asked. Andrea glanced up at the picture. No, was all she said. Batman thought that was unlikely. But that's your father. He's the one who set up their corporate partnership. So, that's his job. Batman pressed forward. He had a strong hunch about this case, and 10 years of detective work proved he was usually right about these things. He was the one element that tied these gangsters together, he said emotionlessly. Where's your father now? Haven't a clue, Andrea said nonchalantly. He's a world traveler, remember? Why don't you try Madagascar? That's not what you told Reeves, Batman responded. You told him you were closer than ever to your father. Andrea was furious. You had me bugged, is that it? I can read lips. Then read them now. Get out. Underneath his costume, Batman's heart was aching. The last thing in the world he wanted was to hurt the one woman he loved as much as life itself. He couldn't go on with this. He shook his head sadly and turned to leave. But as he stood by the terrace door, he turned back to look at Andrea. He had to try one last time. Why won't you tell me where he is? He asked. Are you still following his orders? His words stung Andrea, bringing back unhappy memories of the last time she'd seen Bruce Wayne. The way I see it, she sneered in response, the only one in this room controlled by their parents is you. It's over, Batman thought. No one I ever loved could say something like that. Without another word, he stepped out onto the terrace and disappeared into the night. Andrea Beaumont locked the terrace door, then sat down on the side of her bed and wept. Okay. So we haven't gotten a lot of new notes in that, right? We got Sal Valestra, the Joker, Arthur Reeves, Andrea Beaumont, Carl Beaumont, Batman, and I believe... Oh, thank you. All right, love you.
Love you.
So we got those characters, but we've had them all before. There was a mention of Madagascar, so we can put that in the locations, I guess. And we've had the World Fair. We had Carl Beaumont's house last time. I would say Andrea's hotel room, but we don't know, like, the name of the hotel, and I don't think that, like, the fact that it was her hotel room really matters too much. Most of the mentions of time were multiple references. Like, there was, in those first 2 pages, there was, like, 5 references to the events of 10 years ago. And then I believe... What was the other one? There was one that was just, like, a couple days ago. Valestra was talking about it. Let's see. Yeah, Valestra says, a couple of days ago, I saw him spying on me from the roofs. Oh, that little bracket's not supposed to be in there. Let's get rid of him. That's all for that chapter so far. Let's hang out on chapter 10. Well, you know what? Let me check what's going on in the chat first. What are y'all up to? Nothing. Y'all ain't saying anything. That's all right. We'll just keep on trucking. Alright. A single light glowed in a window of Sal Valestra's brownstone later that night as the shadow of Phantasm fell across the townhouse's face. A misty cloud gathered near one of the darkened barred windows for a brief instant, but as the window was flung open, both cloud and Phantasm disappeared. Inside Valestra's home, Phantasm wandered through the darkened corridors in search of its latest victim. But Valestra wasn't hard to find. All Phantasm had to do was follow the sound of his wheezing, raspy breath. Phantasm gently pushed open the door to Valestra's study. There in the center of the room was Phantasm's prey. He sat in his easy chair, legs up, his face hidden behind the day's newspaper, wheezing and gasping, unaware that he was about to meet his angel of death. Let me eat one of these raviolis real quick, because I have not eaten anything yet today. Oh, that's hot. Phantasm entered, lifting an arm to reveal the razor-sharp hand blade. Phantasm towered over Valestra, but Valestra simply continued wheezing as he read the paper. Something is wrong here, Phantasm thought. Valestra was too still. The old man hadn't moved an inch since Phantasm had entered the room. Phantasm lifted the hand blade, ready to strike, and yanked Valestra's paper away. Sal Valestra was dead. His eyes were wide open and dry, and his mouth was twisted into an inhuman smile. On his chest, a tape recorder played a cassette of Valestra's painful gasps. Propped up next to the recorder was a remote-controlled radio camera. Phantasm was stunned. This was some kind of trap. The camera suddenly turned and focused on the ghostly figure. "Whoops!" the Joker said. His voice was coming from the camera's speaker. "Guess the joke is on me! You're not Batman after all! Looks like there's a new face in Gotham!" Phantasm started running as the Joker continued. "And soon, his name will be all over town!" he giggled. "Not to mention his legs and feet and head!" Phantasm leaped out the window of Sal Valestra's brownstone just as the building exploded. A cloud of smoke formed in midair, carrying Phantasm to a nearby rooftop. From there, Phantasm watched as the police and fire department arrived. Phantasm was shaken. This was not in the plan, but at least Valestra was dead, and the mission was complete. As Phantasm prepared to leave the rooftop, glancing at the magnificent Gotham City skyline, it noticed a bat-shaped figure hurtling down from the sky. Instantly, a cloud of mist formed at Phantasm's feet, carrying the grim figure from rooftop to rooftop. Batman swooped down low toward Phantasm, swinging into the cloud of smoke the dreaded Avenger left behind as it attempted to escape. But this time, there was no escaping. This time, Batman was ready. Through the mist, he spotted the now familiar silhouette and knocked Phantasm to the ground. Phantasm tumbled, landing feet first, coming face to face with Batman. Batman made the first move. He leaped forward, swinging at Phantasm, but Phantasm ducked out of the way and kicked Batman in the chest. Batman fell back and down, but as Phantasm towered over him, Batman swiftly swept his leg under Phantasm's feet. Phantasm fell to the ground. "This madness ends now!" Batman shouted as he leaped towards Phantasm. But Phantasm's feet crashed into Batman's chest as he descended, flipping him over Phantasm and onto the ground. As he fell, however, Batman grabbed onto Phantasm's cape and quickly maneuvered the mysterious figure into a bear hug. Just then, Batman heard the sound of an approaching helicopter. The police, Batman thought. Can't tangle with them, have to finish this before wham! Phantasm had used the moment's distraction to elbow Batman hard in the stomach. Batman fell back, gasping for breath. When he stood up to face Phantasm again, a cloud of smoke was already forming around the villain. As the sound of the approaching helicopter grew louder, Batman leaped into the cloud to stop Phantasm. Batman stretched through the dense mist, but as the police helicopter came close, the smoke started whipping around the roof until it disappeared completely. As the copter hovered in the air next to Batman, he saw that Phantasm had gotten away. He hoped he would be as lucky. And as we all know, that's not how smoke do. This is some really good ravioli. I don't get to eat a lot of ravioli nowadays because of being vegetarian, but what is it? Amy's, I think, has like a frozen ravioli dish that they do. So I picked up one of those, and it's delicious. Batman! The helicopter cop shouted over his bullhorn, "Stay right where you are!" In response, Batman turned toward the edge of the building and leaped off. "Stay on him!" the cop inside the helicopter told the pilot, but that was easier said than done, as Batman raced over the rooftops, jumping, dodging, and swinging off flagpoles. Although it might have seemed to the helicopter cops that Batman was simply fleeing, he actually had a plan in mind. Each jump he made across Gotham City's caverns of steel brought Batman a bit closer to ground level. If he could get down to the street, he'd be able to escape. He spotted an eagle-shaped stone gargoyle down below and dived toward it. Landing safely, he scanned the area for his next drop. About 20 feet below him, he noticed a wide sky bridge that would do just fine, he thought. Batman sailed to the ground, landing safely on his feet. From here, it would be easy to freeze! Batman spun around. There behind him was Harvey Bullock, accompanied by about 20 of Gotham's finest. Their guns were drawn and trained on Batman. Warily, Batman stepped back and flipped over the side railing of the bridge. Police guns blazed as... This isn't the spot to put a photo. You can't put it right in the middle of a sentence. That's alright. As Batman dropped through space before landing with a grunt on the top floor of a construction site. Batman peered over the edge of the half-completed building toward the ground below. 24 police cars and 2 SWAT, Special Weapons and Tactics, in case you didn't know it was an acronym, trucks carrying 20 men each were in the process of surrounding the building. To make matters worse, the helicopter was back, shining a spotlight on him. Batman knew he was in full view of all the troops down below. As Batman raced from girder to girder to avoid the spotlight's glare, he noticed tanks of acetylene fuel tied to each beam. During the day, construction workers used the tanks for welding steel. At night, the tanks were roped to the girders for safekeeping. Batman realized how dangerous these tanks could be if a stray bullet hit one. Suddenly, shots rang out, and Batman ducked behind a packing crate, narrowly avoiding a hail of bullets. On the ground below, Harvey Bullock arrived on the scene just in time to see the SWAT team prepare to flush Batman out of the construction site. 2 of the men loaded tear gas grenades into their launchers and fired. The grenades left a trail of smoke as they shot high into the air before landing amid the girders. Inside the construction site, Batman leaped out of the way of the oncoming grenades. It seemed as though dozens of them were raining all around him and filling the air with dense green smoke. He reached into his utility belt and put on a gas mask. Now the gas wouldn't affect him, and the smoke would give him enough cover to avoid being seen by the helicopter hovering nearby. When he thought the coast was clear, he ran. On the ground below, a SWAT team officer spotted Batman's cape fluttering past a beam. He raised his rifle and started firing. Batman ducked for cover as bullets ricocheted all around him. He was pinned down and couldn't move. Then, from the corner of his eye, he noticed one of the acetylene tanks nearby. Bullets were zinging all around the construction site. It was only a matter of time before, boom! The tank exploded, hurling metal, wood, and a huge ball of flame through the air. Batman was blown back with the blast and knocked unconscious by a chunk of flying debris. Moments later, Batman awoke. He was hurt, badly. A wooden sawhorse had crashed onto his back in the explosion, and he pushed it off his body. With a grunt of pain. He had begun crawling through the wreckage when he heard someone approaching. He gazed around and spotted a SWAT team moving through the ruins nearby. But from the randomness of their movements, Batman bet they didn't know where he was. Yet. So he crawled behind a beam and waited, hoping they wouldn't spot him. In this condition, he could offer little resistance. But it wasn't over yet. After a few moments, a spotlight shined on Batman. He looked up. The helicopter had spotted him again, and now it had him in its sights. Batman reached into his utility belt and removed his grappling gun. It was a long shot, he knew, but this might be his only chance. He fired the gun at the helicopter, and the rope wound around the copter's landing wheel. The cop inside the copter looked stunned for a moment, uncertain of what was going to happen next. Then he gave the order to his pilot to pull out. But when he did, he discovered a caped figure was hanging on to the other end of the rope. As the copter flew off, it was taking Batman with it. "He's climbing on!" the helicopter cop radioed in just before he began firing at Batman. From the ground, the SWAT teams and cops saw Batman flying through the air and began firing. Bullets ripped through the figure hanging from the helicopter. Pieces of cape and cowl blew away, leaving the costume in tatters and revealing to the police below a sawhorse. The cops were furious. They'd been had by Batman again. While they were busy shooting a piece of wood, Batman had probably already escaped. They raced around the back of the building, hoping they hadn't already missed their chance. High up inside the construction site, Bruce, without Batman's cape and cowl, planned his next move. He was weak and dizzy from his ordeal, and now if he was even seen close enough for someone to tell who he really was, his crime-fighting career would be over. While the police and SWAT teams raced up the rear of the building, Bruce staggered over to the front. There, he grabbed a crane cable that extended from the roof of the building all the way to the ground. Holding onto it with both hands, he pushed off and began sliding down. Before he could reach the end of the cable, he spotted Harvey Bullock pointing at him from the ground below. "You! Stop!" Harvey shouted. In response, Batman leaped from the cable and hit the ground running. Harvey and his men chased Bruce on foot. Soon they were joined by the SWAT team. Moments later, a police car picked up the pursuit. To Bruce, it seemed as though all of Gotham City was after him. As he ducked into a grimy alley, he felt as though he were being hunted down like a dog. Why was he doing this? He wondered. He risked his life fighting crime, and this was the thanks he received? Did anyone care whether he lived or died? The other end of the alley was blocked by a wire fence. Bruce leaped at it with all his remaining strength, and as the police gained on him, managed to crawl over and fall up to the other side. On the street at the end of the alley, a car was waiting, its motor idling. As Bruce came closer, he saw the driver. It was Andrea. "Get in," she said urgently. "Hurry!" Bruce tumbled into the back seat just as the police cleared the fence behind him. They could only watch as Bruce and his accomplice roared off into the night. Lying in pain in the back seat of the car, Bruce managed a weak smile. One thought kept running through his mind. Someone cared. There are certain advantages to having a sturdy cranium, Master Bruce, Alfred said as he placed a bandage around Bruce's forehead. But then hard-headedness was always your virtue. Bruce smiled as his butler finished taking care of his wounds and left the room. Then Bruce turned to Andrea, who had driven him from the alley back to Wayne Manor. "You have an excellent sense of timing," Bruce said. "It was all over the TV," Andrea explained. "I had to do something." "I'm grateful, of course," Bruce said, "but I still need to know why you're not telling me the truth about your father." Andrea sighed, then reached down into her purse to remove the photograph Batman had left with her earlier. "Well," she said as she handed him the photo, "I suppose the world's greatest detective will find out eventually. You remember Daddy was having a meeting that night with his partners." Bruce remembered. In his mind's eye, he saw Andrea walking up the stairs to her home and waving goodbye to him. Then she opened the door and went inside. That was the last time he'd seen her until recently. Now he would discover what went on behind closed doors on that fateful day. There wasn't really a lot of new stuff there, right? Most of it was just action stuff. I don't think we've had Harvey Bullock yet, have we? Jesus, why is this? No, we have had Harvey Bullock. So really, it's like almost everything was just stuff we've already dealt with. So no notes. That's fine. Jacob's playing Lego Avengers. Which one? I played one of those. Whichever one was on Wii U. It was a lot of fun. I've been trying to play Lego DC Superheroes lately, and it feels like a little like too over the top, I guess. In some regards, the levels are like way far away from each other, and there's like always stuff just on the screen like that. Get Johnny DC to help you or whatever. Like anytime you're close to something, like the Lego games are meant for me to explore. You know, like I don't need Johnny DC to help me. Food stream. Somebody get this man a freshly cooked alligator. Oh Jesus! I did have alligator a couple of times before going. Before becoming vegetarian, and it's delicious. It's kind of like a honey baked ham, alligator tail. He's flying on the rooftops. Whoa! Everyone's so mean and rude to Batman. Yeah, actually, I've been kind of brainstorming an idea for a video focusing on GCPD. And you know the ACAB acronym, the thought of all cops are bastards, and you know a lot of that is just as a vehicle for me to talk about the whole Black Lives Matter protest and everything, and also talk about lockup, which is something I've been wanting to do on the channel for a while, but I think that scene right there and the way that this book contextualized it kind of feels like a hey, this should be part of that conversation as well, right? Because the cops here like are just assuming that Batman is responsible for an explosion that just happened. And because of their assumption, they're willing to just, open fire on an innocent guy and, also potentially cause explosions at this construction site that could end up hurting bystanders. Which is definitely not an okay thing to do in real life. Like it works in fiction, but in real life, if you got cops doing that and, putting other folks in danger and shooting at suspects who haven't even had a trial, like, and they didn't see the person do that, like, it's kind of gross. See, oh yeah, I'm all for that. Plus more lockup is always great. Sounds like a great concept to cover. Awesome. Well, I'm glad that you guys are interested in the concept. This next chapter is very small. It is 1, 2, 3. That's the chapter. So let's get through this, and then we can open up Ted's gift that he sent me. 10 years ago, Andrea Beaumont walked past the tall man without so much as a glance in his direction. The tall man winked at Andrea and smiled slyly. But Andrea paid no attention to him as she entered her home and shut the door behind her. As she walked past her father's study, she heard voices, angry voices. Instead of going up to her room as she'd planned, she lingered outside the study door. "It ain't right, Carl," Chucky Saw said. "You're a businessman. You know that." "You've taken what's ours," Buzz Bronski added. "You're going to pay. One way or another." Andrea was horrified by the threat. She opened the study door and ran into the room. "Leave him alone!" she shouted. Buzz Bronski, Chucky Saul, and Sal Valestra turned. "I'm sorry you had to see this, Miss Beaumont," Valestra said through a cloud of cigar smoke. He waved a finger toward Bronski, who stepped forward and grabbed Andrea roughly. "Let her go!" Carl Beaumont suddenly shouted. The sight of his daughter being pawed by the gangster was too much for him. He moved forward, but Chucky Saul pushed him back. Beaumont dropped to his knees before Valestra, who smiled at the sight. "Please, Sal," Beaumont begged. "Give me one more day. I swear. I'll get the money." Valestra flicked cigar ash onto the ground. "Convince me," he grunted. This time tomorrow, Beaumont pleaded. On my mother's grave. As soon as the European banks open, I'll have the whole amount wired to you. Valestra thought it over a moment. He looked at Chucky, who nodded yes. He glanced at Buzz, who winked okay. He took a long puff of his cigar and blew the smoke in Beaumont's face. Then Valestra leaned in close so that his face was right next to Beaumont's. 24 hours, he hissed. This time tomorrow, we'll have our money, or I'll have your heart in my hand. Then he stood and, motioning for the other gangsters to follow, left Carl Beaumont alone with his daughter. Carl Beaumont kneeled on the floor, sobbing softly as Andrea rushed over. Dad, are you all right? She asked. Beaumont looked at her through tear-streaked eyes. Pack a suitcase, he said desperately. We've got to get to the airport. Now! What? Andrea said, stunned. But you said you'd have the money. It's not that simple, Beaumont mumbled as he tore through his file drawers, placing selected folders into a briefcase. The money's tied up in investments. Could take weeks to free it up. But I can't leave, Andrea protested. Bruce proposed to me. We're going to be married. Beaumont grabbed his daughter by the shoulders and held her hard. Listen to me, he shouted. I just used up the last shred of pity Sal Valestra has. If I don't pay him back within 24 hours, they'll find us and they will kill us both. Tears welled up in Andrea's eyes as she pulled free of her dad's grasp. How? Why did you do this? Dad! Why'd you get involved with these people? Carl Beaumont looked at his daughter and began to cry. He put his arms around her and hugged her close. I'm sorry, Andy, he sobbed. I just wanted a chance for you. He swallowed hard, a grim determination building inside him. I'll get you out of this. Somehow, we'll be free of those guys, whatever it takes. That's a promise. Okay, so nothing much there. We got a mention of Europe. And of course, the same thing that the flashbacks are 10 years ago. And then it'd take weeks to free up the money that Beaumont suggested he could have in 24 hours. And really that's it for that. Although I did just remember that I missed the pop culture reference of I Love Lucy back in chapter 9. Because Joker did the honey, I'm home. And there you have it. We've got chapters 9, 10, and 11 done. I wish there was a way to make my camera bigger so that it'd be easier to see what's going on in this package. But that's alright. Congratulations, Europe exists in the DCAU. Do you have any ideas for videos not about BTAS? So unfortunately, any of the Superman stuff we want to do, the way that we've had most of our timelining stuff wrapped up in the storyline, I personally, want to get Superman timelining stuff done before I jump into the lore of Superman. But, Superman has cops and stuff as well, so they could probably be brought into that. We've got a whole slew of Zeta ideas. I think we've hinted to you before about that. We've got, Superman Man of Tomorrow review is coming out soon. Hopefully by the time that it goes up live. So there's ideas and stuff. But It does seem that we're doing a lot of BTAS stuff, especially with the Adventures Continue going on right now, right? Like another one that I'm working on right now is like what could have been with Batman Adventures, because of like, you know, this is the time that the Red Hood is relevant to us right now, so it's the time to talk about it. And I'm also working on a Harley Quinn animated series timeline, which, you know, is Batman adjacent, but it's not BTAS. So I hope that answers your question and makes you a little happy, Jake. But like all of these videos take time, and we'd be able to do them more if we had like maybe more editors or something, and if I had more drive to focus on things and get, you know, scripts pumped out as quickly as I was at the start of this quarantine. But it is what it is. But yeah, let's go ahead. Let's see what Ted sent me. Let's get this bad boy open. Ooh, it's a box inside of a box. Oh, I'm seeing the WB shop. Oh wow. Ted got me from the Warner Brothers Studio store a picture frame. And we've got Wonder Woman, Superman, The Flash, Kyle Rayner, Batgirl, Aquaman, in his Adventures in the DCU. Look, same with Kyle Rayner. He's in his Adventures in the DCU, and of course, Poison Ivy and Catwoman. It's kind of funny that Poison Ivy and Catwoman are on here, and Harley is not. But does it say when this was made? I gotta assume that they didn't know Harley was gonna be a big deal yet. Copyright 1998, right? And when did Joker's Favor come out? Was that like 93? I think. No. No joke. Okay, Joker's Favor was 92, so maybe like 5 to 6 years before this came out. When was her first mainstream comics appearance? I own that comic. I just don't know when it came out. It was part of the No Man's Land. I misspelled appearance. That's all right. Harley, you know what? I gotta imagine that it was later in the 90s. It was like a one shot. I don't know what I gotta put in to figure that out. Maybe just add one shot to it. Okay. There it is. It's this one. I mean, that looks like it's a... There you go. This thing. I found this at Goodwill for like $2 and obviously had to pick it up. But when did it come out? I'm just thinking that she probably wasn't a huge... Oh, wow. Oh, this has a comic in it. Oh, no way. I don't know. I don't know about this Harley stuff. That's fine. So there's a comic in here. The Avengers 1.5 Direct Edition. Is this something that Ted put in the box, or like was this in here and he had no clue? When is this from? This is copyright 1999. I'm curious if this is like a key issue of any type. Like, why was this in there? Avengers 1. Oh, I didn't click on the search bar, I guess. Avengers 1.5. 1999. Who is the cover artist on this? Okay, no, it's not like a 420. Who did? Written by Roger Stern, art by Bruce Timm, filling in for Jack Kirby. Lettered by. Wow. Okay, so this is a Bruce Timm Avengers book. This is. Oh, that's fascinating. Oh, Ted put it in there. Okay. Yeah, there you go. There's good old Bruce Timm artwork. I'm kidding. That doesn't look like the Bruce Timm pages. I think it's like something in the middle. But yeah, no, here it is. Here we go. Timm style artwork. I could probably pull up pages online and give you guys a better idea of what it looks like than holding it up to the camera, but that's fine. What else is in the box? Is it just this in the photo frame? Oh, I don't want to. That styrofoam's been in there for a while. I don't want to break it on accident. Let me open it from the top. I was sitting here thinking, I was just like, oh my god, I don't know what picture to put in this, right? Because like I don't really print out too many pictures too often. He put one in here for us. It's the picture of us with Will Friedle from Emerald City Comic Con. Hold on, let me see if I can kind of. There we go. Still got a glare from the light, but oh, that's awesome. Oh, that's so cool. I'm gonna have to put this on the shelf where I normally record the videos. Okay, that is awesome. Timm style Hulk. What will he smash? I mean, you know, it's Bruce Timm, so probably any female character that comes his way. But yeah, this is so awesome. Well, wow, this is the art on the box doesn't even do it justice, because like it's it's all 3D, right? Like it's all sculpted and everything. Jesus, it's so hard to figure out where to hold the things in relation to the camera because it's like backwards. But yeah, like, oh, hold on. There we go. Maybe. No. There we are. See, like, it's all 3D sculpted and everything. You can see, like, Ivy's head's coming up and Bruce's chin. Right here, I'm touching it. That's so cool. Oh my god. I gotta send Ted a thank you message. I gotta do something. James, we gotta do something for the boy, right? Because he keeps getting us gifts, and, like, I just never think to do gifts. And, like, I hardly ever go to the post office. I still need to send. Jake is still in here. I still need to send Jake a Zeta boy that I told him I'd send him. A Zeta Hero Clips guy. I ended up not wanting to go to the post office, and so I sent him season 2 of Zeta Project on DVD. But I still have the Zeta boy that I told him I'd send him initially. So, you know, I'm lazy. I'm sorry, Jake. I'm sorry, Jake. I will go to the post office at some point because I got a couple of things that I need to mail out, but some people are being slow getting their addresses to me, so I will try to do all of it in a one and done situation. But if that person's still being slow sending me the address, I might just go ahead and just take care of it all at once. But yeah, okay, wow, that's really cool. Why am I putting it back in the box? I just said I need to put it on the shelf. I should have just put the styrofoam back in the box. Oh well. But yeah, okay. So we got through the book. We just saw what Ted sent me. That was awesome. Yes, I do need to get you your pillowcase. See, I was gonna actually do that, and then I thought that I was gonna be coming down to Astoria, and then unemployment was what it was. But maybe that'll be something I do this week. Just finally go take care of stuff at the post office. But yeah, so I'm gonna go ahead. I'm gonna get off of here, finish my ravioli, put this guy on my shelf, and all that jazz. But I will see you all next week when we come back to chapters 12, 13, and 14. Love y'all bunches. I hope y'all having a great day and have a good weekend and all that stuff. And I'll see y'all next week, and or, you know, on Twitters and Instagrams and all that stuff. Bye the daisies. But yeah, y'all take care. Love ya. Bye.